Well, good morning, and here we go again for another bit of romp and fun. Hopefully, Andrew Sloan will be joining us this morning from Grizzly's Hairdressers, a terrific hairdresser. As you can see, Ollie is up there, and I heard a little creak at the door, so it's possible that he's coming in to actually make the coffee. I wonder if I've actually locked him out. Let's go and find out. No, we haven't. No, I haven't locked him out. It's all right. Checking on the studio. You know, this idea of a one-man operation, it has its faults. But we're very, very slow when it comes to television development in this country because it's mostly been highly over-regulated, and it's had the thumbprint of the BBC, who resisted any changes on it for so long. But it would be 1966 or thereabouts that I was in a town called Prince George in the middle interior of British Columbia. And I was actually serving a Canada Council fellowship, and part of my job was to take a touring party of professional actors on a tour of the province of Romeo and Juliet. And of course, they wanted the stars to go into the studio. So off we trotted to the studio, and the chap sort of asked us to sit down. And then he came back and he locked off a camera. And then he said, hang on a minute. And then he counted down. And then suddenly we were being interviewed. And after about 15 minutes or so, he said, thank you very much. Goodbye. And he locked off the camera. And off he went. And we said, would you like a cup of coffee? And he said, well, I can't leave because he said, I'm the only person here all day. I actually need to mop up. Brush out the studio before the day ends. And I was so very, very impressed with the fact that one man could run a television studio. Okay, he had to keep on opting in and out of programs. He wasn't doing 12 hours or 14 hours of programming a day, but neither do we. And in fact, one of the great successes of Ulster television was when it first went on the air, it only did an hour a day of local programming. And it built from there to become a very formidable operation. So these things do work, starting from little acorns. Anyway, it's not snowing outside, you'll be pleased to know. It's going to hit about 7 degrees today. There is a warning for fog around. There wasn't any in evidence in Lewis this morning when I came to work. But it is misty in various places. Do be careful. And it started off cold. It started off at about -1. And when I put my hand on the railing to go to the stairs to get to the main road this morning, it was iced and cars were covered. So that's the weather. The nice thing is that the breeze is quite gentle, very gentle. And that means that we don't get a chill factor. It doesn't get too cold. So you should be all right out there. And no rain today, no rain forecast anyway, but watch that fog. And when they put out a severe warning, the fog can be very thick in places. So if you're driving and you come across a patch of fog, just drive very, very carefully. You never know what's in front of you. So there we are, that sets the scene. Whether Ollie will be here this morning or not, I'm not absolutely sure because we got cocked up yesterday. And he was here and I wasn't. I broadcast from my home studio, and I'm not sure whether we agreed at all that he should come in this morning. We sometimes manage to because we normally go for a pint together to chat over the day, and whether that's affecting our communication skills, I have no idea. But so he may be here, he may not be, but hopefully Andrew Sloan will be here from Grizzlies. He normally turns up about 8:15 because he looks after Bella, the little dog, a beautiful little dog who is my favorite, and she loves me too. So whenever I go in, and that is a quite remarkable barbershop because I get I get a cup of coffee with a Jack Daniels in it, and a little dog leaping onto my lap, a great conversation, and each Friday I get a very decent haircut, or every other Friday actually, and I think tomorrow is when I'm on, so I shall go and get a haircut tomorrow. So there we are. That's where we stand right now, and I think it's time for us to see what's going on outside, because we're full of absolute nonsense and posturing and so on and so forth. Because poor old Boris is in trouble up to, as they would say in Northern Ireland, his oxers, his armpits. Everybody's, although the cabinet turned out to defend him yesterday, he is in trouble. And the polls are going down, and of course, no politician wants that. The thing that I suppose I shouldn't be amused at it, look at my face, I shouldn't be amused, is the posturing that's going on amongst politicians. Is, oh, Boris is just dreadful. Look what he's doing. Get Boris. When actually, at the same time, just about the same time, they were doing several things. First of all, they were giving themselves lots of money, extra money to carry on with their work, because poor old MPs, unlike the rest of us, they found it too difficult without a sub. Well, we didn't get one, and we're still perilously close to, we're living by the seat of our pants at the moment. Hopefully that's going to get better as both the weather and the conditions, economic conditions, get better, and as the threat of COVID recedes. All those things are heading our way. The economy is threatened by inflation, but the central banks can, and I'm sure will, take action on that. We actually, as an economy, are not badly off compared to some of our neighbours. But back to Boris, because they're having a go at him, and my view is to a plague on all their houses. We haven't got a political party that's worth sugar at the moment. We don't have any particular politicians, and apparently Rishi Sunak is giving Boris lukewarm support. In other words, if Boris does tumble, Rishi wants to rush in and be the lead candidate. And this is the man who delivered a budget. And we, on this programme, with Paul Fowle, our economist at the time, dissected his budget, which was all smoke and mirrors. So is that the man I want to lead us? Actually, I don't want any of them. And any party. I just want reform. And we had the lovely lady from I always want to say Newtonards, isn't that funny? Because I lived in Northern Ireland for so long. The town down the road. And it begins with New. I'm being naughty, aren't I? But in talking to her, she said that reform is one thing that politicians hate, and she's a politician, a small scale, and she was quite ready to admit that. But reform is something that politicians hate, and it ain't going to happen. She said she doesn't expect to see any sort of substantial reform in her lifetime. And yet, who was it before the last election who had the guts to stand up and say, the present system is not fit for purpose? Our Boris, right? Doesn't he wish that he didn't have some of the crises that he's had and could have got on with the reform, because perhaps he wouldn't be in the situation that he is now. Anyway, he's under fire. And we're taking a look at the Mirror disgrace. Yes, okay. One would expect the Mirror. And basically what they're saying is, first, Johnson said no rules are broken. Then he said he didn't know about any parties. Now he admits he was at one of them, but didn't realize it was a party. Our Prime Minister is at a disgrace. Well, actually, he is. I mean, he's behaving abominably. And I said yesterday, what's happened to statesmen? We haven't got any statesmen left anymore. And that's what the country needs, is statesmen. But there ain't any in waiting. So getting rid of Boris, to me, is a futile exercise, because we only replace it with somebody of equal or lesser ability. And they'll actually change course, and we'll go through the whole Brexit thing again, and we'll go through the NHS thing again, and it'll all be, I promise, I promise, I promise. I think I'd rather see the status quo go through to the next election, see where we stand then, and then have a decent chance. And this time, perhaps, what we'll do is we'll get a turnout of 70, 80%. And when we vote locally, I hope that with some of the things that are now going to happen, with soaring prices, heat going up, some complaints, bitter complaints about the state of some council houses and so on and so forth, is I hope that we will actually turn out at the polls more than the 35% that we do for local elections. We get what we deserve. You know, I think I've been saying several times that a local politician, nice man actually, but he said when I complained on Facebook about local politician, he said, well, you get what you vote for. But actually, that's not true. We get for what somebody else has decided to put up that we should vote for. And no wonder it doesn't mean anything, because so few of us vote. So there, right? And blame Boris all you want. I'm not supporting Boris, by the way. In fact, he was the sort of a journalist that flamboyant though he may have been, is that I didn't particularly care for. I knew somebody who was a senior man in the EU, and he said Boris would come in and he would say, is it true that Czechoslovakia is going to slaughter 50,000 sheep? And the official would say, oh, well, we haven't heard anything of that. That's new to us. And so the headline the next day would be, the EU denies that Czechoslovakia is going to slaughter 50,000 sheep. I mean, that's dishonest politics. It's dishonest administration, but it's most certainly dishonest journalism. So disgrace, yes, maybe, but I just think that the whole lot are a disgrace too. And they're all pouncing up and down, having taken us for a ride for so long. I mean, I started to say that one of the things that MPs did while we were all looking the other way at COVID, at the same time that this uproar is about, is that they managed to reverse the rulings on their on their expenses. You remember the expenses scandal? Yeah, you remember the expenses scandal, where new rules are introduced and so on and so forth. Well, you just double check with your MP. You ask her where that stands now. A lot of it was reversed very quietly, right, while we were being. Yeah, those are the people that are pouncing up and down and saying that Boris is a naughty boy. Ha! Plague on all your houses, a plague on all your houses. The only thing is, of course, is Churchill's famous quote is, democracy is far from perfect, but it's the only game that we've got. And he was right on that. But I think that democracy could be a hell of a lot better with the present system if we just made it work. And if, in fact, what happened is that we cut to the bone the cash that people can get as MPs and cabinet ministers and civil servants and so on, cut those to the bone, so that you've got people with a sense of duty, a sense that they want to contribute to their community, and not because they're going to get a damn good payout and a damn good pension. This government and other governments have encouraged youngsters to come out of school, come out of college, and be entrepreneurs. It's a great thing, you don't have to go and work for anybody else. Be an entrepreneur. But they don't actually follow the same rules that they're asking these youngsters to follow an entrepreneur. Being an entrepreneur is very risky indeed. And the penalties are quite high because actually civil service don't understand entrepreneurs. So the rules that they make and that they follow are geared to somebody walking into a factory, walking into a job. So the whole thing is in a total and utter bloody mess. But anyway, the Daily Telegraph, Sunak leaves Johnson in limbo. Oh, yes, well, he's a smoke and mirrors man. So if, in fact, he makes a bid for the premiership, I hope there is uprising against him too. Not that I've got anything against him personally, but his track record as far as the budget is concerned is everybody, what a wonderful budget, until he actually came under the microscope. And what it was is he's a great talker. So whereas Boris may be very flamboyant, what do we want to replace him with? A great talker? No, thank you, Mr. Sunak. I wish you'd stand down, or at least be true to what you believe, and not flim-flam around the edges. Right, the Express, which is always a supporter of the government. I'm sorry, but now prove you can deliver for Britain, says the Express about Boris. So they're still giving him some sort of support. And delivering for Britain is actually, it depends on your point of view, of course, but he has delivered Brexit. Okay, it's far from perfect yet, but it's slowly sorting itself out. He delivered the vaccine. He has delivered on 2 or 3 key issues. What the Express is saying is prove that you can now deliver on the economy, getting us out of the dreadful effects that COVID and lockdown has had on our society, on our economy, on our business. It needs true leadership. Can he show it? If he can, then perhaps he can get back up in the polls. But once again, I don't care one way or the other. I want good, strong leadership, but there's nobody in waiting, nobody at all. So that's where the Express stands. The Daily Mail, Operation Save Boris, and it says how the cabinet have sprung into action to talk to MPs and so on and so forth after Boris made a grovelling apology, as they call it, in the House yesterday. But at the top of the page is, as he faces a sex trial in the United States, will the Duke now do the right thing for the Queen, even if it trashes what's left of his reputation? And what it's saying is that a court has turned down the lawyers, Prince Andrew's lawyers, about the rape of a 17-year-old in the Ghislaine Maxwell affair in the United States, and he is to stand trial on charges of paedophilia. Now, if it was anybody else, it would be quite normal that they would ask for extradition, and the courts here would listen to the case, and if they felt that it should be tried overseas, off they'd go, and they'd be taken back to the country where it's been perpetrated. But of course, because he's the Queen's son, it does throw into question how it will be handled, and his legal team have been, thrashing around. What the Mail is saying is, look, every moment now that you actually prevaricate and you don't actually go and either make some decision and say, yes, okay, hands up, I did it, or hands down, I will stand trial, or whatever, is he besmirches the Queen's reputation. And there we have one of the finest heads of state of anywhere in the world. I couldn't agree more with that view, is that Andrew's misdemeanors must not affect our head of state. No matter whether you believe in royalty or not, that's a separate issue. It is our head of state. And that's the same as doing it to the president of the United States or the president of China, for that matter. A head of state is a head of state and needs to be treated with respect and dignity. And our own head of state has a great deal of both. So I think that Andrew is getting himself a naughty boy. What does bother me a little bit is that the American system, it was often said in my day, because I lived in Canada for a while, is whatever else you did, do not fall foul of the American judicial system, because being tried in America is quite different to being tried here. Because particularly prosecutors are elected, not appointed, is all sorts of other factors that come into play. So I do understand his reluctance to stand up and I must say that I think that the word rape is a very emotive one. What he did was he had sex with a girl who was under 17. That is classified legally in the States as rape. So I think that we have to be a bit careful about how we use that, because it does imply that it was with a forcible undertaking, as it were. So the whole thing is a mess, a complete and utter mess. And the sooner it's sorted out, the better, because this is the Queen's Jubilee year. And what we're doing here on Mirador is we're looking back over each month. We're just going to take a look at the food that we had in 1952, the buses and trains we had in 1952, the schools that we had in 1952, and so on and so forth, because it's interesting to see how far we've come. And particularly the fact that most people, younger people, do not appreciate, and most older people, it's all right. Little messages come up from time to time, and when I look at them, they distract me slightly. Now, where was I? Oh, yes, looking back, we've forgotten that in 1952, which to me wasn't very long ago, we still had rationing. Sweets were rationed, coal was rationed, some commodities were rationed, petrol was rationed. I mean, we were in a very, very different situation to the consumer society that we are today. Anyway, Operation Save Boris. The Daily Star, rules are only for you little people. They've got a photograph of Boris, yes, it is Boris, pointing the way that there was a poster, your country needs you, for the First World War. He's pointing like that, and but he's saying rules are only for you, little people, right? So what the Star is suggesting is that he's... oh dear, we've lost the papers. No, there we are. We got them back, I think. Oh dear. And that's the Star, which I find a most interesting paper. Anyway, we've lost our way. We lost our way because I hit the wrong thing again, and that's the trouble with all these things that are just so good for us, so we're told, is that they never bloody work, or at least they've got real problems in the way that we operate. And for me, I got pudgy fingers, you see. So if I tap something, I tap 10 digits all at once, and it sends the computer into an absolute frenzy. Anyway, the rules are for little people. The Guardian, the PM's future on a knife edge after the number 10 party apology. I didn't actually see him in the House yesterday because I had other things to do. But apparently he did actually use the word grovel. And actually, you know, is there anything wrong with that? If you really screwed up, is there anything wrong with saying, I'm terribly sorry, I've screwed up and I will try to do better? I mean, there are a lot of people who keep banging on and actually won't apologize for the silly things they've done. And he's been silly. He really has. I mean, he's followed an elitist path. Is you face the wall, and I was one of them, getting letters. You face the wall. Don't go out. Don't do this. Don't do that. People will, volunteers will bring a bottle of milk to your doorstep. By the way, I'm drinking champagne and oysters, which I know you were doing yesterday. The Financial Times. Johnson faces Tory calls to quit after attending a lockdown party. Well, the Financial Times is, if it's having a go at Boris, then because normally the Financial Times it takes different views because it's a far wider international paper than most of the rest, and it doesn't always concentrate on local issues, but it has this morning. So it just shows the crisis that poor old Boris is going through. I say poor old Boris simply because, you know, we all in our lives come under some sort of attack like this, and it's Ah, well, never mind. Tories call on Boris Johnson to resign, says the Eye. The Metro, sorry, not sorry. The Metro is the London paper, of course. The Independent, a man without shame. The Times, say sorry or doom us all, ministers tell Johnson. Winning war on COVID, fix Brexit, don't blow it now, MP, a PM. Actually, a mixed bag, but all more or less concentrating on the fact that may see a change of leadership. And as I say, one of the things that I find upsetting is that those people who are pointing, Andrew, I was so carried away there. I didn't notice that you were there. Good morning.
Good morning. You all right, Keith?
Well, I'm in full flow, as you see. You naughty boy. He's got his coffee with Jack Daniels in it already, and I'm going to have to wait until mid-morning to get mine.
Sorry, I'm a bit later. I just couldn't connect. There's obviously something going on in the Gremlins today. It just wasn't letting me connect to you at all.
Right. So, thank you for being persistent, because we would have missed you. And the fact is that a lot of this technology, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And when you actually ask the people that have made it what's wrong, is they don't know. Anyway, let's get your take on two things. First of all, I mean, let's leave Boris for a moment. What about Prince Andrew? What's your take on Prince Andrew? What damage is he doing to the monarchy? What damage is he doing? Is he being treated fairly? What's your take on it?
Well, we're never sure, really, because we're never quite sure of the full story, are we? Because what sort of betrayed it did turn into a bit of a witch hunt. But originally, obviously he should have just cooperated with the police, really, to have this hanging over, because then if it's all about PR and marketing, if he literally was, this is the thing, if anyone has anything, same with Mr. Boris Johnson, just come out straight away and just tell the truth, because if you lie, it'll bite you, won't it? So that's what people can't bear, is dishonesty, it's lack of communication and dishonesty. It's not actually, people get frustrated or wound up about things. It's always because people aren't saying the truth at the time, or they're not being truthful, or they're avoiding it, or it's lack of communication, or people go radio silent, to quote a news thing. So if people talk, then that takes half the stress away, doesn't it? So I think straight away he should have done that, really. And it's tricky, isn't it? Because it's just tricky, because it's very divisive once again, isn't it? Because people go, well, she's just on a witch hunt. Why has she only come forward now, etc., etc. So it's tricky, because obviously people have to, we have to listen to victims and allegations, obviously. But it's very tricky. The Queen, I mean, the monarchy goes through this every so often, don't they? They sort of, like we said last week with the whole Diana thing, and the press sort of pressurised that, I think, really. So
do you think that this is besmirching the monarchy as such, or just Andrew?
Say that again. If it's
is it besmirching the monarchy as such, or just Prince Andrew?
Well, I think that people can never give any. I don't know. It's funny, isn't it? Any excuse to have a go at it sometimes, But it does. I mean, I saw the Epstein documentary, so whether it's all part of that, and the fact that he has been for years, isn't he? He's been using a royal jet to go around and do things, and public funds, using his place and stuff. He's been a bit of a naughty boy, isn't he? Always has been, though, isn't he? I think.
Yes, and yet he's said to be the Queen's favourite.
Yeah, well, he was. I think only because years ago, I remember as a kid, because he was the handsome one, wasn't he? That was the thing, because he was in the RAF or the Navy? Because growing up in Devon, which is all Navy and stuff, so like my nan and stuff always used to say, "Oh, Andrew's ever so handsome, isn't he?" So, yeah, don't know if he was the favourite. It's funny, isn't it? Because we never hear. Like, did you notice on the Queen's speech, going off track a bit at Christmas? Like, there's never any like Edward. That Edward wasn't talked about, or wasn't in a photo. I think they did something. I thought, oh, Edward wasn't mentioned, but it's always Will and Harry, isn't it? But I don't know. Edward's still around, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, oh yes, indeed, very much. I mean, he does do good works, but if I recall, didn't he start a sort of a PR video company?
Well, Edward.
Yeah.
Oh, did it? I know he did a lot of stuff in theatre because in the 90s, some people I worked with, he went and did work experience on, I think it was Les Mis, I think, when it was at the Palace Theatre and stuff. Yeah, because he wanted to sort of get into theatre. And I know everybody sung his praises, actually. He said he was really nice and a real good team player. But we never hear about about Edward, do we? But
Yeah.
it's very dodgy, isn't it? That it's because reading that or watching that documentary with Epstein, it did seem very corrupt and very all the rich, super rich, flying around everywhere and having what they want and stuff. And being part of that, if I had a friend who was up to those sort of things, I wouldn't be friends with them. I wouldn't, whoever you are, I wouldn't associate with someone who's, it's a little bit, it's quite moral, isn't it? Quite frightening, that documentary, really. It's quite upsetting, But what's interesting is on the Epstein in his New York townhouse, he had CCTV on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So, the amount of people that were, I think he had stuff on people, on Trump, on Clinton. I think that's why he's Epstein was, killed himself. I think so. Maybe it's part of all that. I don't know. But yeah.
Well, let's turn to Boris.
The Queen.
God.
Call him Boris Johnson, Keith. Everybody calls him Boris because we've got to call him his full title because everyone always calls him Boris because he's a comedy character. So I always try and call him Boris Johnson.
Right.
Because he is the Prime Minister. So it's like, you're not just a clown, a buffoon with messy hair. You are our Prime Minister. So, take your name seriously, for God's sake.
Yeah. Take your title seriously and take your responsibility seriously. Yeah.
Oh my God, all this buffoonery and blah, 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 blah. And you just go, you're on the world stage representing our government. And so it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. No wonder Macron and all that is like, jog on,
Yeah.
It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
I think the world leadership is just very poor at the moment. But do you think he's going to survive? Because whatever else we may think about him and the situation is, this is a political reality, isn't it? I mean, the moment that you actually put a big foot wrong the way that he has is the hawks circle. And they are ready to rip you apart and replace you.
Yeah, well, what's come out of all this and various conversations with people is that it's all jobs for the boys. So if people are on, and the girls sometimes, obviously, if people are all, these MPs are in the back pockets of people and, they vote tactfully because they don't want to lose their seat because they see Boris as a favourite in the public. So as far as keeping the Tories in, they like Boris. That's why he's in there. So are they going to vote? Because but the problem is, we're all reacting from a moral point of view, aren't we? We're all going, this is right, this is wrong. You shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. If you do this job, da 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 da. This is the rules. As we were all playing by the COVID rules. So when people do that, we see there's a natural, in a normal job, it would be verbal warning, written warning, and you're out. But for some reason, because there's so many other factors attached to all this, and this is what's come out of all this, really, isn't it? Is there are no rules in that sense. In that world, in the elitist, I sound like a right Ben Elton lefty now, but in the elitist world of government and MPs and boys clubs and in the back pockets of CEOs of companies and briberies and Tory sponsors that pay X amount of money and then they throw a certain weight in their opinions. It's not fair. So it's not a matter of right and wrong. So that's why the public get frustrated all the time because we are following our own logic. But unfortunately, those in those positions of power and capitalism and, the rich, in a sense, they're on a different planet. They're coming from a different point of view. We're coming from morals and logic and what makes sense to us, what we believe is right and wrong. But they're going, well, I can't actually vote against Boris because then I'll lose my seat and that means I'll lose my job. So actually, I've got to, even though I don't, agree with him or what he's done is wrong. But what about everybody else who's in the party? If there was a party, there was one, wasn't there? I mean, all these parties, it's not just Boris Johnson. There's other people that went, other people that knew about it. You know, I'm sure it was watched. Obviously, I'm really pro Met Police and police in general, but that was obviously being watched, wasn't it, by CCTV that control the garden and stuff. So people would have been aware of it. So it's not just a case of there's Boris Johnson there, but then there's a big spirograph, which is everybody else that's involved. For me, so anyone else who's involved at that point is guilty. This is really dramatic now.
Yeah.
But see what I mean? Everyone is connected in that sense to that wrong logic, and I broke the rules, because as far as I'm concerned, you know, we all locked down, we all lost money, we all had to make meals out of nothing because I had no income to buy food. We all were affected. People had to throw stock away, pubs, businesses, you name it. Everybody was affected in one way or the other, really, whether you were benefited because you didn't have to pay your travel, or the people who were affected negatively. You know, my dad, as you know, recently died. You know, he was in a home for dementia, and I had to talk to him through a window. So we were all doing our bit. We all played by the rules. You know, my friend reminded me yesterday, oh yeah, that was when we met in the park, didn't we? We had to pee in the bush because we met outside. Because, you know, so you think, God, yeah, actually. So we were all following the rules, so our logic, and that we did it. And then you hear that people who weren't doing it, and also people were vilified, weren't they, for dog walking or meeting a friend. There was drones, and they were being fined, and all these thousands of pounds of fines were handed out. So then you go, but then all this was going on. So it was Boris Johnson, the people who were there, the people who knew about it, all that was connected. So what about them? Surely.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying the same thing, Andrew. You're singing my song, because what I'm saying is that okay, he may be the leader, but it's the pot calling the kettle black, and you know, there's all those people that are being so moral and saying you shouldn't do this. We're all at it and are. You know, I mean, MP's expenses was an absolute scandal. So they waited until it died down, and then they changed the rules back again, so they can do exactly the same thing. I mean, it's an absolute outrage. Yeah.
I'll tell you what else I was told once by somebody who works sort of closely within investigation stuff, shall we say. I know one of the expenses, well, two of the expenses the MPs put through during pandemic, when I had no income, I still had to pay the same life insurance bills, more, you know, you name it. One of the bills that went through with the government, cost-wise, was £17,000 for Deliveroo for food, right? To the Parliament, £17,000, right? That's a lot of money. Yeah. 32, I think, £1,000 or something was for AirPods for MPs for expenses. I'm not being funny. I mean, these were present 4 years ago, but I take sandwiches to work. You know what I mean? So to save money, and you know, I had old earphones. So I don't think that's acceptable to use that funding for this. You know, when I go to work, so that's part of the things where there's loads of things where money is being spent, isn't it?
I only eat one meal a day. Yeah, I only eat one meal a day. There's those. The only thing that keeps me going is a Jack Daniels in your coffee.
Hey, so that's. They're all breaking, and like what you said actually about the moral thing of how dare they, but it stands there saying all these things and these rules, which is what we all did, you know, obviously, because we needed someone to take control. We need advice, you know, we have leaders. That's why we vote in our parliament. And then to be told that something else is, you know, they're all doing their own thing anyway. And also, do you remember as well? I mean, it'd be interesting to go through a timeline, isn't it? I'd love to do this. I keep saying this. I want a big warehouse with a big white wall and all this stuff I want to write on and connect all the dots. But because Boris Johnson got COVID as well, didn't he? So he was ill. So it'd be interesting to trace all that back. What date was that again when he got COVID? I can't remember that. It was quite early on, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Remember when Trump as well? Trump had the party, didn't he? And they were all there. So I just wondered, it'd just be nice to link all these dots together for behaviour and actions and behaviour. But do you remember the amount of they were almost putting out there about youths or people having parties and stuff, and there was a very north-south divide thing happening as well, and they were saying, you know, you're doing this, you're killing your granny. There was a lot of a blame thing going on, wasn't there? Do you remember at the beginning, various things? So that's outrageous now. Anyway, that's vile anyway. But, you know, it turns out they were doing what they wanted anyway. So but surely, when this happened with Owen Paterson and all the Lib Dems and the Lib Dem rep got in instead of the Tory one up there, I wanted the leader of the Lib Dem party, whoever that is, all the Lib Dem MPs to come out, knock on everyone's doors, talk to all the public, talk to us all, and say, this enough is enough, because Keir Starmer's just useless, So we just need the public's voice, the outrage, the logic, the sense. We just need to take the power back somehow and say, this is unacceptable. We're now removing you from office. This is what's happening. Because surely someone emergency should step in. But out of decency, why doesn't he go in the Prime Minister's question time or on a public address and say, I apologise. I've been quiet for a couple of days because we just had to get all our ducks in order or something to speak to you or something to say, because he went quiet straight away, didn't he? He should have come out straight away and said, look, a full investigation is happening. I support this. I was aware of this. I've messed up and stuff, and we realise all this anger, but we're going to change things. And then there almost should be someone should step in and say, I'm now going to be, Boris is going to step back to sort this mess out, so someone else is going to step in to do the day-to-day stuff. I don't know, just to save face in a way. Out of PR, they could have done that, couldn't they? Just to go to the public, we're addressing this, 100%, we're addressing this. But they're not. No backbenchers who have been angry about it have come through and said, right, this is what's happening. I don't know. The problem is, like I've said before, we're basing it on our logic and our common sense. And, if you're part of that world, which doesn't have to worry about money and worry about things, and do what they want.
Yeah, absolutely.
What can we do?
We'll take a breather now, just to take a look at the town in which we live, because Susan Harris goes out very early in the morning and takes some photographs. So we'll take a look at that. And then when we come back, I want to ask you a more local question. So let's just take one little breath. Oops. There we go. Well, there we are, the town that we know and love. And now I want to ask you, because there is something I don't quite understand, and I wonder whether you understand it or whether other people are bemused. There is a strike of the bin men, I think. Are we allowed to call them still bin men in Eastbourne? My understanding is that it's now Eastbourne-Lewis, that we are administered as a joint group. I believe that the bin men here are not on strike. Now, how does that gel with what we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to be merged? Do you understand it? Or are you going to turn around and tell me that the bin men here are on strike?
I'm not quite sure, because some of the clients were talking about this yesterday, because of course we had all the bin strikes in Brighton, at the end of last year. And it was an absolute nightmare, because people were just, rather than sort of being a bit more careful and, making sure your black bin liners are in a communal bin with lid closers and stuff like this. I'm sort of thinking Lewis might be a bit more sensible, because it won't sort of necessarily leave things on streets, because our Seagull stuff in Brighton is terrible. So it was a complete mess, but I sort of think Lewis residents might be a bit more keen on the upkeep and keeping things a bit tidier, I think. So, yeah, because the councils have merged, haven't they? So,
Yeah.
I think it's about the same issue, isn't it? Because I think there's a contract they were paying to cleaners to go after the bin men have been to clean up some of the mess that gets left behind, rather than so they've cancelled the contract, and then they wanted the bin men to do it as part of the obviously what they used to. So I think it's that, isn't it? Is that the reason?
Well, it's certainly to do with their rate of pay. I mean, I was trying to figure it out from watching the local news this morning on rival stations. That they get £11 an hour or something at the moment, and they wanted to boost it up to 13. And the council, but you see, this is where I don't understand who is negotiating. Whether it's our council with the bin men here and their council, but it's a joint effort in terms of the executive. I mean, it's all very mucky and messy to me. But I think that they've said, well, we've got a pot of money. We'll put your wages up, but it does mean that we're going to have to cut 2 or 3 people from the crew. And of course, that puts people in a real dilemma, doesn't it? I will appear to be greedy if I put somebody else out of work and he's a mate. But by the same token, I really want to increase my salary. And with inflation up nudging 6%, I guess we all want an increase in our salary. Yeah.
Now, this is interesting because this is part of the same thing, though, isn't it? So it's almost putting that on someone else rather than the employers shouldn't be putting that on an employee that go, well, money has to come from somewhere, so we'll either lose 2 of your crew so you lot can get more money. And it's like, that shouldn't be put on the workers, should it? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So, but they're putting up a council tax as well, aren't they? That's another thing that's going on as well. But obviously, services are getting less. So obviously that's because the government is squeezing less money to the local councils, so the councils have to put the money up. But it's like, how can it? I think Brighton Council, ours has gone up 5% every year, but the services have got down, especially because they put X amount to police and obviously for fire. But yeah, try and get a police officer to deal with a case like damage. Forget it. So but obviously because all resources are being squeezed by top government. So it's the usual thing. It's a distraction thing, isn't it? Keep people bickering, keep people, between themselves, because the real thing is up at the top, isn't it? The big rich people, they're doing okay. All the government's doing less money and stuff. So yeah, it's not cool, is it?
Well, you've actually touched something that's close to my heart, because people say to me, Keith, why do you persevere with local television and so on and so forth? Not too many people care about it one way or the other, and in many ways they're right. But the Harvard Review, which was made first in the United States and then it came over here and was redone here, showed that where the shrinkage of local media results in higher taxes, in other words, higher rates that we pay, and the worsening of services. And that's exactly what's happened here, because the shrinkage is, I went to John Eccles' funeral. Perhaps John Eccles wouldn't mean much to you, but for many, many years, he was the epitome of a good local journalist. He was everywhere. He knew everybody. He would appear on your shoulder. He knew what was going on, and so on and so forth. And as a consequence, the Sussex Express had a very, very vital asset as far as Lewis is concerned. Well, now it just dips in and out. It goes down to the council sometimes. I think it's got somebody who reports to council. Ha ha ha. And I mean, that's a farce in itself. And there is a radio in Peacehaven, which is now Radio Eastbourne, which does have the remit to look after Lewis. But apart from our pal Kevin Kramer, I don't know that there is really any sort of radio presence in Lewis. So we are the last vestige. And when I suggested that Mick Symes is Lewis present page on Facebook is all sorts of people. But I mean, I think it is also the last vestige. And if we go, and if the radio don't care, and the newspapers don't care, and eventually Facebook gets upset at what we say, because that's increasingly seems to be happening, is then I really the politicians and the executive have got a free ride, and everything will go up, and everything will get worse. And I mean, that's not me talking. I mean, these are, if anything is respected, it's the Harvard Business School. I just hold up my hands. That guy was right. We get what we vote for, and even though it's limited what we vote for is pretty damn poor right now. Yeah.
Isn't it part of, or like, globalization and centralization? So everything becoming, taking away local services and making everything central. Same as, self-service things, all that sort of stuff. But that's what we always bang on about community and connection. So what the price of paying that is that, so everything being centralized, everything being and you think, actually, but then you're pulling away from local community connection, and that's what keeps us all going. And the more you take that away from people, the more people are just, they're just turning towards consumers, aren't they? With the risk of sounding like mad. But and so it's just trying to fight that, trying to keep everything at local level in community and interact with people. Because before you know it, what will all be, get rid of local pubs, it will all be big chain pubs, everything will look the same everywhere, everything will be beige. You can walk into any Wagamama's anywhere in the world and it will taste the same. It's a sort of similar thing, isn't it?
Absolutely right. And yet the strange
go to independent coffee shops, go to independent cafes, go to independent shops, connect to people, local radio, local TV, or just support, just turn in instead of turn out all the time onto the screen. Stop scrolling.
Generally speaking, globalization is starting to be discredited as a sort of a business tactic, and it is. I have a constant fight with American Express, a constant fight. Because in 2016, I mean, American Express has always been controversial with businesses and so on and so forth. But in 2016, it had got a new CEO who is dedicated to globalization. And now I've found the difference, a great difference in the way that they deal with me and with other people and so on and so forth. And they're flim-flam. I mean, you can see on Facebook, be our partner, be our, it's BS. This company has gone from being a substantial company, but one that really did care about its customers, to one that doesn't care anymore. It uses the old American system of battering people around the ears and so on and so forth. And in fact, I actually got a call from American Express, and I told them next time if it happens on a Sunday at approximately 11 o'clock, and I was in church. And I said, the next time you do it, I'm just going to put on a loudspeaker and the whole church can hear what American Express does, chasing people on a Sunday. Absolutely
well done. Because this is it, you see, when they're calling you, it's on their time and stuff, rather than, you setting the boundaries, like they do in France, don't they? It's illegal for work. They're not allowed to do anything work-related or send work emails, that type of stuff after work hours. So there's got to be these boundaries where this is times when people can deal with this, but everything is all 24 hours, 7 days a week, and you think there's got to be certain boundaries at certain points for people, isn't there? People are too, it's not cool. That's not cool, No,
it's not, and it is counterproductive in many ways. But most of the banks are the same. I mean, one of the comforts was I've had a slight problem. I need a sort of little help for 2 days, right? Is if you go to the bank now, all they do is they punch in a couple of buttons and come back and says the computer says no. Whereas, just 5 years ago, 6 years ago, you could go in and you got a bank manager still who knew you, understood you. He could make decisions locally. It's all done by the board.
Well, this
and
is
it's
what
not helping our community.
but this is the thing where, the media, the data, we are data, we are the product. It's all part of that, isn't it? Because everything is,
Yes.
your spending habits, your patterns, your stuff. So all those algorithms of what you look at, how long you look for, it all gets fed into a data thing, So a computer would do all that, you see, rather than a person would would know you and go, okay, this is fluid or whatever. Or this is. I just think, absolutely. No, that's gone, isn't it? Obviously, banks.
Can I actually a very good example of how all this is flawed? Just so that people who may say, well, what the hell are they rabbiting on about? Is one of these algorithmic thingy thingies took a piece of our video about 5 years ago and rejected it as obscene. And it was a clip of the War Memorial. And the algorithm had seen that one of the ladies there has got a fairly full breast. I mean, it's not totally bad, but and it had decided that our War Memorial was obscene.
Wow.
Exactly. Hello, computer. You got it wrong. Don't care. I'm a computer.
I know it's a worry, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, Andrew, it's 4 minutes to 9. Always great to see you, and I should probably come and drop by today to have a chat, if I may.
Lovely.
But I always give you the opportunity to raise anything that you would like to raise. So here you go. Anything that's bothering you or anything you want to say?
I don't. To be honest, all this, I keep thinking there's an urge in me where we want a bit of good news. Like we all need something a bit. I don't know, something would happen so we all collectively suddenly in a good mood, Like we all have that, we used to have that Christmassy feeling, or if something happens, there's a feeling that we're all possible. So, in the negative way, when all the stuff came out before Christmas, everyone started panicking and then everybody was sort of shutting down and not going to party. But a positive version of that. So I just think we all need something. I don't know what it's going to be, something external or what, but it's that. I just think, come on, let's just, reach out to friends or do something or make a conscious effort to say, yep, it's going to be a nice day today. I'm going to have good conversations with people rather than with the news. It's all doom and gloom and all this stuff. So that's my thing, is something needs to change because we've been in this sense of nearly now. So, because it was Brexit and then obviously then it was this. So yeah, come on everyone, let's make a conscious effort to smile, talk to people, be friendly.
Beat the establishment. Yeah, but we'll beat the establishment with our common sense.
Kindness. Kill them with kindness. That's what someone said to me once,
Andrew, thank you for being with us, as always. Let's remind people, come on, tell us about Grizzlies. Quickly, you've got a few minutes, a few seconds.
Okay, so we're just down opposite the Needlemakers on Market Street. Opened April last year, sorry. And we're a gentleman's barbershop that is not intimidating. We're very welcoming, even if you want to come in for a little trim, a little tidy up, a little coffee, a little chat, a little beer, or just ask any questions if you're not sure about anything. We're the one place where you can feel you can just walk in and get a warm welcome, and anything is up for conversation. Yes, we're right opposite the Needlemakers on Market Street. I know there's 10, 12 barbershops in Lewes, and everyone offers something different, but we're not trying to be flash trendy. We're not trying to be something to everybody. We're not trying to be right laddie. We just want to be nice, open and welcoming, get a good haircut, good chat, and have a little coffee. Much more of a community place really as well than just a barbershop, I think. So that's us.
I shall be coming along to Grizzlies later in the day to check out everything. And
have a good day, Keith.
Bella. And you too. Here we go. It's 8:59. Andrew, look forward to seeing you later. Thank you for being with us. What about a little promo before we... We'll be back tomorrow. Let's say goodbye with another of the nice features in Lewis. Here we go. Toodle pip.